Hello lovely people! So, some of you may, from the title of this video, know exactly what it's about. In fact, a couple of you already guessed on my Instagram when I teased that this video was going to be made. But for everyone else, surprise! I was misdiagnosed. If you're new here, hi, I'm Jessica. I make positive, educational and amusing videos twice a week about disability, chronic illness, gayness and vintage style because I'm layered that way. All humans are a spectrum of interests. Subscribe if you enjoy painful life lessons packaged in happy ways with some vintage sass. Let's start at the beginning. So, I was born a bit off. Slightly wrong. This baby isn't quite like the other ones. Doing this doesn't normally hurt babies, but this one seems to be really crying about it, so let me continue this poking and maybe we'll find out why. I was a little bit too delicate, a little bit too floppy, a little bit too slow, and then in other areas just too fast. I spent my entire childhood either ill or injured and accused of faking it 90% of the time. I was known for my two signature accessories, an Alice band and a tube bandage. My mother was forever being called into my nursery or my primary school because Jessica injured herself again. One of my most powerful memories is being dragged as a 3-year-old from room to room of our nursery by my friend, and she had both of her hands on my forearm, and I remember looking up at her face and thinking what jolly fun it all was and feeling the bumpy playmats under my belly, and then suddenly, the kind of pain that makes you no longer human. My entire freaking arm was hanging off, just flopping around from a bit of skin, and it hurt like you wouldn't believe, and I couldn't even breathe because it was just stabbing myself harder with every breath, like a knife being pushed between every single rib. They called my mother, who came and picked me up and then had to take me to hospital herself. I remember being in such pain that I was mentally sat in a little room in my head whilst my animal instincts took over in my entire body and I just angrily screamed. I probably would have bit someone if they'd let their hand get too close. According to my mother, it took a very long time before someone found a senior doctor willing to casually swan over and just shove my arm back into place. And that wasn't the last time. Oh no, it happened more often than we could remember. So my mother developed a system for checking whether my arm was dislocated or just injured. She'd give me a chocolate button, which I would grab with my good arm, and then before I had time to eat it, would offer me another one. If my arm was just injured, I'd reach up with a bad arm, and if it was dislocated, I'd try but fail to lift it, and then cry a lot. There was a lot of crying. I also hated anything involving bouncing because my ankles are essentially jelly. Trampolines, fun until they snap your ankles. Not a big fan of rough and tumble, also involved many injuries. Can we all just take a moment to recognise how spirit-sappingly boring it is to be injured? I mean, just, wow, so boring. Why do adults think that children fake injuries? It is the least fun thing in the world. I was a very dramatic teenager and I had those, well, if I got hit by a car and broke my leg, everyone would show me intense love and realise how great I am thoughts. But then I accidentally paralysed both my arms and I lost a lot of my friends. It was very, very boring. Plus side, I did have some great party tricks to go with the dislocations because apparently most people can't do this. And their fingers don't bend back. Like this. And they can't fold themselves up into a kitchen cupboard when playing hide and seek. Madness. I may have been terrible at gym classes, but I was excellent when it came to warming up stretches. That counts for something, right? I mean, I should get a medal. Thank you. My general floppiness kind of flew under the radar when it came to my health though, because I had a lot of other things that were wrong with me. I was exhausted, I had terrible digestion, fell over constantly, got dizzy just from standing up, was in constant pain all of the time, had terrible migraines, my extremities were always going numb, and I feel the cold like someone is actually peeling my skin off. Oh, and I bruised like a peach. I bruised when I so much as looked at the aforementioned trampoline. I didn't even have to get close to a trampoline. I just had to be in the general area watching other kids having fun on the trampoline, and my body would just become one massive bruise. Have I mentioned trampolines enough? Are you getting that I would love a trampoline to jump up and down on? Preferably with some kind of safety mechanism to protect my weak little ankles. Anyway, I'm actually finding this video really hard to make and talk about, and I don't know. Sometimes I cover difficult stuff by being amusing. Probably gonna cry now, which feels like a very silly response to the fact that I was just joking about trampolines. But there we go. I always envied those kids who got to do gymnastics or play sports or go on a bloody trampoline. I've just been weak all my life and I can't hate it. I cannot allow myself to be unhappy with it because then what? What then? This is my body and this will always be my body and I can't allow myself to be annoyed because that clearly serves no purpose. But sometimes, I guess being annoyed is the right thing to do. Anyway, I paralysed both my arms for 1.5 years when I was 17, and you probably heard this story before. And if you haven't, there's a card above with a video that explains that happened. And when they finally worked out what was wrong with me, I was diagnosed with something called hereditary neuropathy with liability to pressure palsies. That was worked out by a blood test. Don't know why I had to do that. I'm missing a gene. My dad is too. Case closed, right? Except it didn't explain all of my symptoms, because it didn't explain my hearing problems or my floppiness or my dislocations or anything except the numb fingers and completely inappropriate response to touch stimuli. By which I mean feeling cold air as if I'm being flayed and feeling cold water as if I'm on fire. Oh, and the thing where I paralyse bits of myself. I always forget other people's bodies don't do that. At the time, the doctors mentioned something about hypermobility, but didn't really register because they used the term as an adjective, not as the actual name of a diagnosable condition. So in my head, I just chalked up every single symptom I had to the genetic condition I knew I had, HMPP, which was also really helped by the fact that I turned 18 and suddenly I didn't have a consultant doctor anymore because health system's great when you're a child, but once you become an adult, it's the Wild West. For 5 years, I mainly just went to my GP with complex and baffling things. Oh hey, I've got pneumonia again. Oh hi, I had a migraine and then I went blind in this eye. What's that about? That the poor chap tried to work out, but really shouldn't have had to. I did see an HMPP consultant once or twice, but she literally did not care about any of my symptoms that didn't fall under her remit and accused me of faking them. Oh, because again, faking stuff, clearly so fun. I should add here that having hypochondria or psychosomatic illnesses is not the same thing as faking it. No, do not relate. Not the case, even if other people tell you so. So, I wandered for 5 years in no man's land. No help with unexplained symptoms that I really disliked my body for having. 5 years, 7 years. Feeling like I had, maybe because apparently there was just no reason to have them. They made no sense, but then I met Claudia.
I lose my breath whenever I see you.
I love how the upswing of every story I have is, and then I met my wife. She really does make everything better. She's very pushy. She signed me up to a new HMPP consultant who is the bee's knees, and from there we learnt that although I had a lot of symptoms that weren't under the HMPP umbrella, they probably did have something to do with rheumatology, which she then referred me to. Brainwave. So, she referred me to a consultant rheumatologist who explained that hypermobility wasn't just a way to talk about floppiness, but was actually a thing. It's a thing. It's a big umbrella of things, but it's a thing. Mixed connective tissue disorder, he said. Mixed connective tissue disorder, also known as mixed connective tissue disease, is an uncommon systematic inflammatory rheumatic disease. It's an overlap syndrome, a term used to describe when a patient has symptoms of more than one classic inflammatory rheumatic disease. To be diagnosed with MCTD, you must have rheumatic symptoms plus anti-RNP antibodies. It's a little bit like saying, you have something, I just don't know what yet. By the way, I looked up anti-RNP antibodies and Google told me anti-RNP antibodies are directed against the U1 particle of an extractable nuclear antigen named ribonucleoprotein protein. It's on the screen, which is apparently made up of a complex of proteins and a small nuclear RNA named U1. Well done if you know what that means. The initial symptoms of MCTD are generally unspecific, consisting of general malaise, arthralgias, myalgias, and fever. And it should then take around 3.5 years from the first manifestations until almost every organ is affected. With patients that meet the full criteria for MCTD, arthritis is the most common symptom, with Raynaud's, swollen hands, lymphopenia, and heartburn following in descending order. MCTD made sense of a lot of my symptoms. My pain when it's cold, blue fingers when I'm stressed, pain and inflammation in my joints, inflammation and pain in sun-exposed areas of skin. I hate the sun. Weirdly, I know. Muscle weakness, hand swelling, swallowing problems, difficulty breathing, weird heart thing, fatigue. Of course, there were some things that just didn't make any sense and that I don't have, but a lot of it made sense and I understood what was going on. I liked that it had a name. I made a video called My Disabilities, HMPP and MCTD that explained more, but my eyebrows are terrible. It didn't exactly fit, alright? I had these symptoms for more than 3.5 years for one thing. I don't have skin abnormalities other than bruising like a peach, obviously. I've injured myself in a way that would cause scars, but they're not noticeably terrible. Just the one under my chin. I also don't have Raynaud's syndrome, which is a key indicator of MCTD. That's where the blood completely leaves the tissue, leaving your fingers white or yellow as response to even a tiny bit of cold or stress, which, funnily enough, my wife does have it and even has to wear special gloves and socks with metal in as it gets colder. It's literally the only thing wrong with her. Amusing to me. Anyway, I have a whole video about it. It's there. But the point is that it didn't really explain all of my symptoms, and again, it didn't quite match. And then I met some amazing friends, Jeremy and Candice, who own a chiropractic clinic in Southwick, England. Aligned Chiropractic. Highly recommend. And they pointed out that my body type perfectly fits another condition. That sometimes people leave comments in my videos saying, hey, are you sure you don't have this? And then I looked it up and yep. Sounds like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Hands up if you saw that one coming. Apparently not me. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or EDS, is also a connective tissue disorder and occurs due to variations of more than 19 different genes, with a specific gene affected determining the type of EDS. Typically, these result in defects in the structure of processing of the protein collagen. And yes, that is the thing that they make face cream adverts about. It's why some people with EDS look much younger than they are, and some people look older. The thing is, from my experience, not many people in the medical profession really know what MCTD is. It's really been a struggle getting help for it. And I feel as if I've been pushed from pillar to post and tried to get help from the physiotherapy service for things like my jaw dislocations, which are getting much worse. And now for a week before my period, I find my jaw is so loose on the left side that it partially dislocates during the night, and then I struggle to eat or talk. And you don't really see that because I don't exactly make videos when I can't talk, but it's really been quite difficult. So EDS, on the other hand, is a known quantity, and whilst it might seem like I am actually saying that I want what the popular kids have, what I'm actually saying is I want to receive adequate medical care for the symptoms I have, and I want to know what's wrong with me so I have the tools to manage it. So I asked my GP, primary care physician, to refer me back to rheumatology in order to get reassessed. Particularly important as the diagnostic criteria for EDS has changed since I was diagnosed with MCTD, and they may have diagnosed me with it when they saw me the first time, had that been the case then. And he said, no. Because why? It's not curable. There isn't any point in referring you. And rheumatology are very busy right now, treating people with things like rheumatoid arthritis. They won't want to see you. But, I mean, it's a bit like a doctor handing a parent a baby and going, it's dying. Not going to tell you what though. You can have fun figuring that out by yourself. What does the ability to cure something have to do with giving someone the medical help they need, for goodness sake? And that was a month ago, and it really cut up my little heart. The same doctor in the same conversation also told me he refused to support me getting my eyebrows microbladed, and I'm not sure why I focused on that, but I really did, because I really want to have proper eyebrows. If you can't tell, I don't actually have real eyebrows, I draw them on. They're naturally a centimetre long, started falling out a few years ago. I'm not saying that being re-diagnosed in quite a big way and my eyebrows are on the same level, but it definitely felt like it at the time, and I just want to know everything I can about my body, and I want that body to have eyebrows. Anyway, I tweeted about it the upset. And then someone wrote underneath, I've been trying to find a doctor who will diagnose what I think is EDS. And then someone else wrote back, oh, I saw an amazing doctor privately and she only charged me £300. And then I cried. It hadn't really occurred to me to go privately, but then that same poster tweeted the link to the doctor that they'd used, who, by the way, has a service that allows you to book online and pay by PayPal because it's not the 1900s anymore. And I made an appointment immediately. I can't find the original tweet now, so I can't thank you, but please know that you've made a really big difference to my life. So I went to the fancy London clinic, and as soon as Claude and I walked in, we both had the same, oh, this is why people go private. I knew we had a ridiculous amount of money reaction. And it was comfy and friendly and pretty and clean, but didn't smell weird. And everyone smiled at me. And none of the staff looked like they'd been working for over the legal limit of hours without a break. There was a little sign in the waiting room that said, we've heard patient feedback about the temperature of meals being served. All hot meals will now be served on preheated plates. Preheated plates? Plates even? I mean, Jesus, when I was in the gastro ward, we didn't even have plates. They served our food on cardboard, which is pretty indistinguishable from the sandwiches. And this is not me advocating for the privatisation of the NHS. I could not think of anything worse. This is me advocating for the government doing their job and allocating the NHS the resources they both need and deserve. We saw a lovely consultant who listened and took notes as I spoke and ran through various tests and told me that my arm span is longer than my height, which may be the most exciting thing anyone has ever told me about my body. Once that was done, she diagnosed me then and there. Hypermobile EDS with Marfanoid phenotype. And I shall make another video that actually explains what that means. I just wanted to use this one to share that I've noticed a marked change since getting that diagnosis. A few weeks later, I went to the GP to ask for a referral to physiotherapy for my jaw again. And yes, it was a different doctor, but the change was pretty extreme. He listened, he took everything I said seriously, conveyed that he was aware of my condition, how it works and what it means, offered me the help I asked for. MCTD affects between 1 and 9 people in every 100,000, depending on the ethnicity. EDS affects at least 1 in 5,000 people globally. Hopefully this new diagnosis means it's going to be easier for me to access the help that I need. If you've seen my mobility aid hunt videos, you'll know that I've been trying to find the right mobility aid without the help of a professional because I just didn't have access to that. I love the NHS, but if you're slightly out of the ordinary, it's very difficult to access. But I'm really hoping that my new mobility aids can turn a corner for me and make dealing with my body a little easier. I shall see you in my next video where we can unbox my new aid together. Mwah!